Hello, and welcome back for another Coffee with Laura. It is such a pleasure for me to get to join you every week and share some knowledge that hopefully can make it easier for you to work through some of your stuck points. For those who don't know, or as a reminder to those who might know and need the reminder, I've been through a lot of this, which is why it hits so close to my heart and why I jump on here and talk to you guys every single week, is because I never want people to suffer the way I suffered. And man, is today's topic so much about my struggles in general, which comes back to emotional eating. As we grow up, we do the very best that we can to make sense of the world, get the love that we desire, and, have fun, feel good. And we learn along the way that certain things are important. Like most of us learn that, achieving is good and resting is bad. Resting means you're being lazy. But what if you've been working for 17 hours? Is then are you still being lazy if like you take a rest, or is that an appropriate time to rest? So just as an example. But as we grow up trying to get the love that we want, like there are these chemicals in our body that are working for us, but sometimes it might not feel that way, especially when our actions manipulate the chemical space in general. So, we've talked about dopamine a little bit before, and dopamine is the, feel good chemical that we get when we have experiences outside of our body, like eating, sex, social media, achievement, like those things release dopamine. Whereas like the happy chemicals on the inside that we create are oxytocin and serotonin. They all kind of do the same thing of like making you feel good, but because we are out focused people, like we look at outside things to achieve, we all just go after dopamine without even realizing that's what we're doing. So if you think about it, there are three primal human emotional needs: love, safety, belonging. And when one of those is threatened, we learn how to protect ourselves. And safety is the number one, because if you're not alive, the other two don't really matter. So you have to be alive. So we perceive that as stress. And fortunately, there's not a lot of, survival threats going on right now. Like, most of you likely don't encounter bears or lions on your like average day, but that doesn't mean that you're not responding in threat, because the new threat isn't necessarily our life's survival, but our self-identity, our perception of our self-worth. And if that is threatened, we crave dopamine. We protect ourselves. For so many of us, food is how we've learned and been conditioned by previous generations to understand how to balance ourselves out. And the problem it actually is, it's not the emotional eating, it's the disconnection from our emotional world. Because we don't know what we're feeling, we just know we don't like it. So we try to get rid of that feeling and we eat. Well, you now just created a pattern in your brain. It's like, oh, uncomfortable feeling I don't like. If I eat something unhealthy that has a lot of sugar, it makes that feel better. Let's feel better. Meaning your brain now understands it's never okay to not be okay. It's never okay to not like something or to be unhappy. But that's not realistic, and that's not life in general. It's not the message you're necessarily intending to send, but it doesn't mean that you're not sending it. Point being, you might not like the fact that you emotionally eat. I get that. I didn't either. But it's helping you survive right now. This is why diets don't work. For so many of us, emotional eating is a version of self-protection. It's like having a safe room if there's going to be a war. Like, take the safe room away, the war gets a lot more threatening, right? It's the same idea. you can't just take it away. And like with diets, what they do is they ultimately stretch your willpower. You see that you can achieve it. And then once that muscle is kind of like worn down, you go back to the same self-protective mechanisms. The real heart of it is understanding why you need to protect yourself to begin with, what part of that is making your identity feel threatened, but then not taking the emotional eating away, but recognizing it for what it is, your desire to feel safe. Then brainstorming what are other ways that you can feel safe? What are other ways that you can get dopamine, serotonin, or oxytocin? And honestly, lean into the serotonin and oxytocin by like being more introspective and connecting more with yourself. You won't feel the same dopamine lulls when you do that in general, but that's not how we think. We feel something's wrong. We look outside. We distract ourselves with our phones, with Netflix. That's not coping. That's not decompressing. That's numbing. And I'm not judging by any means. I mean, again, this was my survival instinct for a very, very long time, but it comes down to a choice of if it's how you want to protect yourself. So if this bad habit that's helping you stay alive, this, emotional eating happens, you judge yourself, even though, it's your attempt to feel safe, and then you end up bullying yourself about it after you eat, making yourself feel unsafe again. It just doesn't make sense. Unfortunately, not a lot of this stuff is always logical. It's self-protective, but here's what I'll say. When my dad was in the hospital and I really wasn't sure what the outcome would be, my gut wanted to emotionally eat bad. But instead, I played with my pups. I read some quotes because they tend to give me some good perspective, listened to some great podcasts, went for intentional walks daily in beautiful naturistic parks, like really exposed myself to a lot of things that normally bring safety to my heart. And after 3 days, I went to Cold Stone, got a pint of ice cream, came home, and was so ready to emotionally numb out. I had 3 bites before I ended up throwing it out, to which my husband asked me why I did it, because I obviously just purchased it. And I told him it wasn't working anymore. And that's exactly the point. When you, I never said I couldn't have the food. I tried all the things on my coping menu that I thought could work, but ultimately the weight of my dad's health needed more. I don't know if I'll ever feel safe about that, and who says I technically should, but I tried everything I could, and when that didn't work, I went to Old Reliable, and guess what? That didn't work either. So I realized there's just no getting away from this feeling per se. It's just honoring this is someone I love. It's gonna hurt, and you just gotta kind of suck it up and sit with it. Did I like that experience? No. Am I proud of how I handled it? Yes. Because before that, the last time he was in the hospital, I showed up to the hospital with a thing of edible cookie dough as I was by his hospital bed, just ready to ignore the feelings. The feelings are there. They're not going to go anywhere. If we keep shoving them down, if we keep eating or watching TV or going on social media instead of understanding the emotional need, you can't expect yourself not to emotionally eat if you're not also giving yourself time and space to understand what's making you feel like you need to. Where's the threat? At the end of the day, what we weren't taught is we're all we have. Our parents and our friends, they love us, sure, but no one will understand you like you, and most people don't even take the time to understand themselves. But they have no problem judging themselves and bullying themselves when shit doesn't align. Again, been there, didn't work too well. Maybe it's time to do something different. The answer can't be taking away what makes you feel safe, or you're gonna feel threatened. So, takeaways. Emotional eating is likely linked to a protective mechanism to keep you safe. Don't take it away. Build other things in that make you feel safe while you start to learn what's actually feeling threatened. Is it your sense of safety? Is it that you're not feeling respected? Is it how you're being perceived as a person? Are you too sensitive to what other people think because you don't know what you think? these are the sources of why we do these things. But I put on 20 pounds, took off 20 pounds, put on, took off more times than I can count before I kind of was sick of the roller coaster. And when I was finally ready to like look at my habits and change, it's been such a breath of fresh air being able to just not worry about food, eat food that tastes good, that I know is healthy and makes me feel good. It doesn't have to be that hard. And now that I understand the role the emotions are playing, when I feel that pull towards food, I know I need to go and journal. And that is what helps me get through it, among some of the other things that I listed. But I have some exciting news that if this is something that you struggle with, any element of emotional eating, or you're just sick of the diet in general, I am super excited because I have revamped the Stress-Free Healthy Me. It is normally, and it still is, a 12-week course that you get to do at your own pace. You get a community, you get a bunch of different levels of support from me, you get private calls, and you get to watch the content whenever you want for the rest of your life. You get it forever. But for some people, they're comfortable with their food and how they eat, but it's the behavior that really gets them. And for other people, they're fine with their behaviors, they just don't know how to eat. So I actually split the program into its 2 sections that you can also now purchase it as, which is just like the 4 of just getting your food foundation, or if you need work on the behaviors, the 8 of the mindset of being healthy. Or if you need the whole shebang, you get the 12, obviously. But it is new, it is improved. If you want to get off the up and down roller coaster, get through some of these emotional bunkers, make sure you go to my website. I will drop the link below, and just know I'm always here to help. So if you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful week. Get curious about yourself, and I will see you next week.